Yo, what's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join me on Patreon to get the complete version, the link is in the description. Pirate King Rampaging Demon King. 1DK. Chapter 1 Time Travel to Whitebeard's hometown. Pirate King. Rampaging Demon King. 1/210th. Chapter 1 Time Travel to Whitebeard's hometown. Next. Second half of Grand Line New World. This is an isolated island called Sphinx Island. Surrounded by the sea on all sides and no passing ships, and the undercurrents under this sea area are surging. The magnetic field is disturbed and the weather is changeable, which has built several natural barriers for this Sphinx Island. The island has always maintained a climate like spring all year round and good weather. Among them there are green mountains and green waters all over the place, and the smoke from the small towns rises. People live a self-sufficient life, prosperous and stable. Behind the small town there is a waterfall with a huge displacement like a galaxy hanging across the entire island, adding a touch of vitality to this peaceful island. At the same time, behind the hanging waterfall there is a cave passage hidden. In the passage a group of people are walking in it. The black human silhouettes are different in height, short, fat and thin. Marco, did you get the Marine 6 Styles training method I told you last time? Sage, I want to learn about SX, can you teach me? Vista, didn't you say that you want to give me the black knife of Hawkeye, the world's #1 swordsman, as a pencil sharpener? Josie, didn't you say last time that you wanted to snatch the little empress from daughter country to be my daughter-in-law? Namur, didn't you say that there is a big ship named Noah in your hometown, the Fishman Island, and you want to use it when I go to sea in the future? Dad, last time I ordered the glitter fruits from you, frozen fruit, thunder fruit, op fruit, did you bring them all this time? In the dark and cold cave passage the voice of a little boy kept ringing. When they walked out of the cave they were greeted by a bright and warm sun and a vast grassy plain in which a small number of houses and buildings were distributed. It was a peaceful scene, as if in a paradise. The grassy plain is surrounded by steep and towering mountain walls, and there is only this secret passage for the entrance and exit. Okay Roja, I didn't get any of the devil fruits you asked for. Vista, you go and teach him how to practice swords. After walking out of the cave the leader, a big man with a crescent beard, issued a low and helpless command voice. The big man is like a little giant wearing a white war robe and cloak. His chest is exposed and he holds a big pheasant knife. There are more than a dozen subordinates in various costumes on both sides of him. At this moment they all had tired smiles on their faces, looking at the little one in front of them. The little one is only 16 years old, named Roja, with black eyes and black hair, thin body, wearing white short sleeves and black shorts and walking on straw sandals. At this moment he was pouted, rolled his eyes and stood in front of everyone, making people feel like a little rascal. Roja is so PD now, these big pirates, every one of TM can boast if they don't talk about it. And what the hell is 4 Emperors Whitebeard? Recall that it has been 4 years since I traveled to the world of One Piece. When he found out that he was time traveling he was in a daze. I am obviously a teenage kid who has just grown hair and I am comfortable chasing One Piece at home. How did I time travel? When he spent 2 or 3 days inquiring about the information of this place, he found that the people on the entire island were isolated from the world and ignorant of the world. Fortunately the law and order on this island is not bad. Everyone lives and works in peace and contentment, and the door is not closed at night, and there is free food to receive. Roja did not starve to death because of the food problem. Later Roja, who accepted the fact of crossing, began to commit suicide in various ways, trying to activate the cheat in his body according to the routine of the internet, but he didn't. The big bully who has changed his face. One day when he was bored sitting on the coast expecting a ship to pass by and take him away from the island, he saw a huge foreign ship coming here. At first he was excited, but when he saw the crescent beard and skull flag on the foreign ship he was shocked. After the ship docked, the ones who came down were indeed the New World 4 Emperors Whitebeard pirate group in the original book. As the strongest bully on the island, Roja cowardly hid directly on the mountain of the island for more than a month. Later he slowly learned that this island is actually Whitebeard's hometown in New World, Sphinx Island. After the death of Whitebeard in the original book, it is the most precious legacy guarded by Marco and his gang. Roja, who reacted, was so excited. He has read One Piece. It was introduced in detail in the original book. Whitebeard is the strongest and the poorest of the 4 emperors. A large part of his property, black money and resources, were secretly transported to his hometown and other disaster-stricken countries, islands. The point is that the residents of this island don't know that Whitebeard has such a high status and power outside. Every time Whitebeard and his gang bring them some food, cloth, medicine and daily necessities, they are very satisfied. In Roja's eyes this is simply a waste of the strongest thigh of this era. Yes father, come here Roja, I'll see if your swordsmanship has improved. Foil Vista, who received the order, was wearing a gentleman's suit, a tall hat and 2 western swords pinned to his waist. He stepped forward with arms as thick as tendons and directly picked up Roja's collar. Take Roja away like a puppy. Roja was also speechless. He stuck out his tongue at Whitebeard and the others and led Vista carry him to the sword field deep in the village. After Roja was taken away, Whitebeard turned around and glanced blankly at his team captains. The captains, headed by Marco, are all scratching the back of their heads at this moment with wry smiles on their faces. After you finish drinking, don't brag about the outside world in front of this kid Roja. I don't want this pure land to have any connection with the outside world. Whitebeard's eyes rolled slowly and his voice was deep and oppressive. Everyone nodded again and again, not daring to object. Whitebeard turned around, looked at Roja, who was carried away by the foil Vista, and shook his head speechlessly, giving off a feeling of physical and mental exhaustion. In the past when he came back to this island he was relaxed physically and mentally, but since Roja appeared 4 years ago every time he came back he was exhausted by it. The time came tonight. Roja, who was covered in scars, lay flat on the grass of the sword field and looked up at the starry sky with 2 wooden swords beside him. Vista had already returned to the outside town to participate in the carnival. This guy Vista is indeed a great swordsman who can challenge Hawkeye. I have trained under him for 2 years and I can only make 50 or 60 moves with him. Roja murmured. During the training with Vista, Roja's biggest feeling is his own strength problem. According to Vista's words, Roja is now very familiar with sword skills. What is lacking is actual combat experience and lack of physical strength. Neither of these 2 things can be improved in a short period of time, so Roja is not in a hurry. Then he got up and went to the outside town through the cave tunnel. The town was brightly lit and the air was filled with the fragrance of melon and fruit. Roja has been familiar with it because every time the Whitebeard pirates come there will be a grand food and wine carnival every night and the residents will enjoy it. Dragging his tired body, Roja came to the only bar in the town. The captains of the Whitebeard pirates also gathered here to have a carnival. Hey, Roja, has your drinking capacity increased this year? Come and compare with me. Ha 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 ha. Roja, do your best, you little boy who can give daddy a headache. You will surely make a name for yourself in the ocean. Ha ha ha. Yo, isn't this little Roja? Was he abused by Captain Vista again? Ha 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 ha. Comma. Roja walked in with no expression on his face. Facing the teasing laughter of many Whitebeard crew members, he ignored him and went straight to the inside of the bar. Although Roja is a bully in the town, he also knows his job. The bartender in this bar is his job. But he was so exhausted now his short body walked to the inside of the bar and he fell to the ground and fell into a sound sleep with his mouth open and his nose bubbles fluctuating from big to small. Her bartenders were too busy serving everyone and no one noticed Roja. At the same time there were 3 captains headed by Marco sitting on the bar. They were drunk, laughing wildly and whispering for a while, and then Marco took out a devil fruit with a color similar to a mango and a spiral pattern from the inside of the bar. This fruit, isn't it a tribute from a gang boss in West Blue to Dad? Sage, the captain of the second team, asked drunkenly. The gang boss said that this is a Paramesh's runaway fruit. Its ability seems to be to make it run out of control and increase its strength. Dad asked me to auction it and exchange it for 100 to 200 million Baileys to buy wine and drink. Marco held the devil fruit in his palm, said drunkenly. Ang, run away. It doesn't seem to have much effect. Drink. Ha 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 ha. Vista, who was drinking too much, suddenly yelled and Marco's hands trembled in fright. The runaway fruit rolled directly into the bar. Boom. Roja, who was sleeping below, only felt his front teeth hit by a hard object, causing a lot of pain. There was also a touch of bitterness in the mouth. Roja, why are you sleeping here, kid? Pick up the devil fruit. The 3 of Marco were a little surprised when they found Roja in the bar. Roja covered his front teeth with one hand, didn't pay much attention and glanced at the devil fruit on the ground. Why are there 2 holes missing on this devil fruit? Roja picked it up, put it on the bar and wanted to ask Marco what kind of fruit it was to see if he could eat it himself. However, when Marco, Saki and Vista saw the 2 missing gaps in the shape of front teeth, the 3 of them were suddenly drunk and sober, staring at Roja with horror expressions. Chapter 2, Runaway Saiyan Giant Ape. Pirate King. Rampaging Demon King. 2/210. Chapter 2, Runaway Saiyan Giant Ape. This kid actually smashed this devil fruit with his front teeth and ate the pulp. You know, whether you eat devil fruit whole or a little bit, the final result is the same. Those who eat it will gain abilities and will be abandoned by the sea ever since. Roja spit out the devil fruit quickly. Otherwise Dad will scold me to death. Marco yelled in horror. In a state of drunkenness he even stretched out his hands, excitedly grabbed Roja's slender neck and kept shaking it. The movement here brought many crew members around as well as the team captain and vice captains to gather around, but these guys are drunk now. Seeing this scene they reacted differently. Hey, Marco, stop. Roja will be strangled to death by you. No, Roja has already eaten a little devil fruit. Although our Whitebeard pirates don't care about this mere devil fruit, if we let Dad know we will definitely drive Roja out of this island. What? Devil fruit worth 100 to 200 million Baileys was eaten by Roja. Ha 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 ha. Interesting. Isn't it just a devil fruit? It happened to bring Roja on board as a trainee crew member. This guy has been trained by 16 captains since he was a child and now he has eaten devil fruit. Although his strength is not good, he is not bad. Are you kidding me? A 16-year-old Whitebeard pirates trainee crew member? If the guys in Marine find out about this, Roja's bounty won't directly reach hundreds of millions. Ha 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 ha. The 16-year-old big pirate with hundreds of millions of rewards is more powerful than O'Hara's devil's son. It's okay, let's do it like this. Quack quack quack, comma. However, the noisy voice became more and more blurred in Roja's ears at this moment, and even Marco, who was shaking his neck, felt farther and farther away in Roja's eyes. Meanwhile, outside bars, Roja was shaken by the anxious Marco and the whole person had closed his eyes and fainted, and Marco also realized that he had gone too far. Although Roja has been occasionally trained by their 16 captains in the past few years, he is still a 16-year-old child with an ordinary body. Marco sighed helplessly and remorsefully shook his head with one hand on his forehead and said, Hey, all those present, listen to me, don't tell Dad about this. I'll wake Roja up with healing flames later. Remember, if you let Dad know that Roja ate devil fruit, might drive Roja off the island. Diamond Chows, who looks like a green forest hero, said, Can't Roja be allowed on our ship? Being a trainee crew member is also very good. I think my father will agree. Many people around looked at the fainted Roja and nodded in agreement. Marco shook his head. As pirates, although we are free, we also have to take huge risks. He is still too weak, so let him grow up quietly on this island for 7 or 8 years. Daddy will let him aboard. Everyone was silent. Afterwards Marco put Roja flat on the bar, waved his palm, and a turquoise healing flame burned from his palm. Under the gaze of everyone, Marco pressed his burning palm to Roja's neck. However, at this moment, boom, a low pounding sound beat from Roja's chest and Roja's whole body trembled. The voice was deep and powerful, very eerie. Realizing this, Marco's expression froze and his flaming palm stopped in midair, not daring to approach. What was that just now? It was Diamond Joe's who was talking. He was a little drunk at the moment, but at the moment he seemed to be absorbed by Roja on the bar and hurried to the bar, staring at him with a pair of big eyes that were as big as copper bells. I feel it too. It was Sarge who spoke, the captain of the 2nd Division. There seems to be an unexpected change in Roja's body. It was Vista who spoke. Boom boom. Suddenly Roja's heart gave out 2 low and muffled sounds, and the small body on the bar table also swelled twice. The muscles of the limbs were soaring and Roja's expression was ferocious. What the hell is going on? Is Roja's body affected by the fruit ability? Marco withdrew his palm in shock and said in surprise. He wasn't frightened by Roja's state, but now there was a vigorous vitality and a tyrannical aura overflowing from Roja's body. I feel an evil and tyrannical aura, as if a demon is about to rush out of Roja's body. Captain Marco, Captain Sachi, Captain Jazzy, I advise everyone to evacuate the bar. Suddenly a deep male voice with a hint of excitement came from the corner of the bar. Everyone looked intently and saw a stout crew member with a black scarf, big nose and 3 missing teeth talking. Teach, why do you say that? What do you feel? The person who asked the question was Sage, the captain of the 2nd team. The current Teach is just a member of the 2nd team, not the 4 Emperors Blackbeard in the future. Teach shook his head, expressing his ignorance. At the same time, boom, 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 Roja on the bar counter made a rapid heart-beating sound from his body like a war drum, which scared the spirits of many pirates. After all, Roja ate the devil fruit and no one knew what would happen after eating the devil fruit. Just when everyone was surprised and at a loss, Roja on the bar began to grow in size with a ferocious face, protruding mouth, bones, fangs and blood-red eyes. At the same time black hair grew on his body, his limbs grew thicker and heavier, also increased. Crack, crack, the wooden bar under him was crushed by his soaring size, making a cracking sound. Roar, roar, Roja roared like a wild beast, and at the same time a tyrannical aura spread around him. No, Roja has turned into a gorilla. Leave the bar and evacuate the surrounding residents. Marco's eyes were horrified and he shouted loudly. Chapter 3 Almost Killed Marco. Pirate King. Rampaging Demon King. 3/210. Chapter 3 Almost Killed Marco. When Marco roared, all the crew members of the Whitebeard pirates in the bar became tense and completely drunk. Indeed, they could see Roja on the bar counter transforming rapidly, growing in size with blood-red eyes, sharp teeth and black hair. Even the bar was crushed. Hurry up and evacuate the residents. With the captains here, it's not a big problem, said a crew member. Immediately everyone acted quickly. The 16 captains lined up neatly on the street, each of them looking serious and holding their weapons tightly in their hands. Marco, this tyrannical aura is not quite right, Diamond Joe said. At the same time he activated his fruit ability. Half of his body instantly turned into a hard shining diamond. As the devil fruit that I just ate so strong. Vista also took out his own pair of western swords at this moment and said with frowned eyebrows. Hula. A howl of flames sounded in this street and I saw Marco waving his arms and instantly transformed into a pair of blue flame wings and opened his fighting posture on the spot. I don't know either, they all cheered me up. The opponent is Roja, be careful not to hurt him, Marco said. As soon as this remark came out, the hearts of the other dozen captains tightened. Marco actually positioned Roja as an opponent. You know, all 16 of them are New World's long-established great pirates and the bounties offered are in the hundreds of millions. Even if a single marine admiral confronts 16 of them, he will die of hatred. Suddenly the top of the bar vibrated violently when everyone's eyes focused on it. Boom. The top of the bar was instantly exploded by a huge black shadow and the wooden boards were splashed and dust billowed in an instant. When the 16 captains in front of the bar street saw the huge black shadow, they all froze in place, their eyes bulging and their expressions terrified. In front of them was a huge chimpanzee over 20 meters in size. Most of its body pierced through the bar and was exposed in the air. With its thick arms raised high, it pinched its fists and hammered its own chest. Boom boom boom. It echoed in the night sky like a war drum. At the same time the gorilla roared against the bright moon in the sky. Its silver fangs were very scary and its pair of huge and angry red pupils was even more menacing. FK. What the hell is that? How could there be such a big chimpanzee on the island? The big chimpanzee with red eyes seems to be in a state of berserk. And the tyrannical aura emanating from it is too strong. This size is comparable to Elbaf's warrior. Is this Roja who ate devil fruit? Why do I feel like I'm not his match? Didn't you say it was Paramesh's devil fruit? How did it turn into an animal? Could it be something wrong? Oh my god. The 16 captains are waiting in full force as if they are about to make a move. Around many crew members of the Whitebeard pirates who were evacuating the residents stopped in shock when they saw this scene. But after all, they were the crew of the 4 emperors who had seen the big world and they quickly recovered from the shock and organized and quickly evacuated the people. Enough. Roja, stop it. Marco waved his flaming wings, flew high into the sky and yelled at the black-haired red-faced gorilla below. In fact, Marco was full of doubts at this time. What Roja ate was obviously the fruit of Paramesh's runaway. How did he become a terrifying gorilla now? At this time Marco's voice reached Roja's ears. At this time Roja knew exactly what he was doing. Although he was conscious, his spirit and body were super excited. There is only one thought in my mind: destruction. Destroy everything like crazy. Destruction can make yourself happier. Roja turned around, looked at Marco in the sky with blood-red eyes, raised his arms above his head in the shape of bullhorns, clenched his fists, and the beast's mouth full of Sennin's fangs instantly opened wide and a ball of energy light gathered at its throat. Hair. Seeing this, Marco in the air felt chills all over his body, and after feeling the astonishing energy from Roja's mouth, a picture of himself being blasted to pieces flashed in his mind. Immediately Marco's whole body turned into a phantom beast and Dengkong turned into a burning turquoise fire phoenix at the same time as he transformed. The mouth cannon in Roja's mouth turned into a huge shining beam of light and shot out, directly blasting Huafeng Marco in the air without even scum. The beam of light from the mouth cannon illuminated the entire village for a brief moment and finally disappeared after bombarding the sea outside the island. Everyone could even vaguely see the distant sea and sky flickering. This is too destructive. He must not be allowed to destroy the village. Oh my god, this fruit ability is too heaven-defying. Fortunately Mars sci-fi beast turned into a beast early, otherwise he would really die. On the street below, all the captains looked at the gorilla feeling ashamed and shocked. At the same time in the night sky, a group of blue flames was rapidly gathering. You lead it out of the village and I'll ask Dad to come over. Marco, who had returned to the form of the fire phoenix, shouted in the air. After speaking, he flapped his wings and flew towards the waterfall. At the same time on the street below, more than a dozen captains put away the shock in their hearts and each of them looked embarrassed. Although they are powerful in combat, the gorilla in front of them is not weak and it is Roja, so they can't hurt him, which is difficult. I come. Suddenly a rough voice sounded from among the captains. It was the captain of the 3rd Division, Joes, who was shining with diamonds all over his body. At this time he had turned his body into a diamond state, leaving only one human eye exposed. When the team leaders hadn't reacted, everyone saw Joes running at a very fast speed, leaping vigorously and bumping into the gorilla's knee. During the impact, Chaozi was like a high-speed train. With a sound of bang, the street under his feet sank instantly, bursting into a spider web, and a large number of rock fragments splashed all over the sky. The entire huge body turned into a silver bullet toward the gorilla's knee, bumped away. Captain Joes, take it easy. Don't kill Roja, shouted the captain below. Although the destructive power shown by Roja at this time is astonishing, but in terms of physical strength, Josie can definitely rank first in the world of pirates. In the original Summit War, Joes directly hammered an iceberg out of the frozen sea and then threw it. His terrifying strange power surpassed Sea King's by many times, and his physical fitness was comparable to the strength of thousands of dragon elephants. Chapter 4: Kick Josie away with one punch. Where the island? Pirate King. Rampaging Demon King. 4210ths. Chapter 4: Kick Josie away with one punch. Where the island? Boom long. Jaws's diamond silver cannonball hit the chest of Roja the gorilla, who was destroying everywhere, and the sound of physical collision cut through this area as low as thunder. The strong impact directly knocked Roja back again and again, and his huge body crushed the bar building. On the other hand, Joes flew backwards in the air, spinning endlessly, blasting a ring of shock waves in the air. But Roja's gorilla body was unharmed. After standing still, the captain saw Roja's excited fists hammering his chest, making a thunderous pounding sound. Boom boom boom. Roja, who was knocked down by the sudden Joes, suddenly became more excited and angry. The black hair all over the body exploded. The gorilla Roja, who was already full of anger, stared fiercely at Joes in front with his red eyes, his thick fangs exposed in the air like sawtooths. Couldn't Joes, who was so powerful, just knocked it down with a powerful blow? It's a lie, right? How can this devil fruit that I just ate have such a powerful force? Oops. Captain Joes, be careful. Don't worry. Our Captain Joes is the 3rd captain who followed 4 Emperors Whitebeard's father in the south and north. His diamond shell is not a joke, but the strength of this gorilla is too exaggerated. Quote. The crew members who saw this scene were stunned. Ahahahahaha. Ahahahahaha. There is a good show to watch. Teach, who was standing at the same place watching the play, saw this scene but secretly rejoiced, as if the fact that his teammates killed each other was a happy thing for him. Joes, pay attention. Now this is not the little Roja, his eyes have become a completely different person now. Vista, armed with 2 great swords, looked at Roja, the now completely out of control gorilla. At this time Roja hammered his chest with both hands, let out bursts of beast-like anger, and then ran towards Joes, who had not yet landed. Kill. Ha ha ha. Roja couldn't resist the excitement of Devil Fruit's rampage, because for him the harder he played the more excited it was, just like those hidden gentlemen who couldn't control themselves at all. At this time Roja, who was in a rampage, can only destroy, has no emotion, no pain, and his movements are abnormally flexible and fast. I'll resist him first, any of you hurry up and urge Dad. In the air Joes stopped spinning and ordered everyone below. However, as soon as the words fell, Joes felt a chill behind him, his whole body was stiff and he couldn't move. As if being targeted by a ferocious beast, a brutal murderous aura spread from behind him. Jaws's eyes trembled and his head slowly turned to one side. At the same time a huge black curtain-like figure slowly appeared behind him, accompanied by a pair of huge blood-red animal eyes and a rough snort. At this moment the picture seems to be still. When the captains below saw the gorilla appearing behind Joes, they were all dazed and trembling. Too fast. With such a huge body it was possible to get behind Joes in an instant without his knowledge. Before Joes could react, A wall of orangutan slaps swept towards him from right to left like a slap in the face. Boom. The next moment a milky white sonic boom barrier flashed across the palm. Immediately afterwards, like a cannonball being ejected from the chamber, Diamond Joe's was slapped and flew away by the slap containing all the strength of the Saiyan violent ape. Long, long, long. The diamond body broke through the sound barrier one after another in the air at a speed invisible to the naked eye, making loud friction sounds and even diamond fragments sprinkled into the atmosphere. At this time Chaozi was flying against the strong wind, his diamond body was being released, his eyes were pure white and he had obviously lost consciousness. This, I wipe, Captain Joe's, the direction Joe's is flying to, is the waterfall. Seeing this scene, the captains headed by Vasto below all shouted in horror. Punch. With one punch the captain of the third team of the Whitebeard pirates was sent flying and he lost consciousness. You know, Joe's is a veteran who has followed Whitebeard for more than 30 years. The fighting power is not inferior to Admiral. It also has the strongest physical defense ability in the world. And this runaway gorilla is just a teenager who just ate the Rampage Fruit. How can it be? When everyone was shocked, Blackbeard Teach, who was hiding in an inconspicuous corner, also had a shocked expression and even snot bubbles came out. How is it possible? I'm pretty sure that what Kid Roja ate was the fruit of Paramesh's rampage. Even if it is transformed, it is impossible to have a combat power comparable to Admiral. No, the blow just now, I'm afraid it already has the level of an emperor. Quote, Blackbeard Teach muttered to himself. Immediately afterwards, with the shock in his heart, he quietly disappeared in the darkness and stayed away from here. Cool, so cool, who else? Come and challenge me one-on-one. Roja yelled inwardly. Although Roja's consciousness is excited and sober in the eyes of the outside world, he is still hammering his chest continuously, roaring furiously and shaking the heavens. Seeing this scene, more than a dozen captains who were scattered in the street and on the roof of the building felt a lot of pressure. At the same time, Joe's, who lost consciousness in the air and kept flying backwards, was flying towards the only waterfall on Sphinx Island. Anyone who has read the original work of One Piece should know it. Surrounding this waterfall is a huge leather barrel-shaped ring mountain. The interior contains a vast grassland which is like a paradise, and Whitebeard and some villagers live in it. And the only entrance is covered by the waterfall, so ordinary people can't find it. Boom. Joe's, who flew backwards through the air, directly hit the middle of the waterfall. Immediately the galaxy-like waterfall that was illuminated by the moonlight was blown out of its short flow. Jaws' whole body was deeply embedded in the rock. Immediately afterwards the waterfall returned to its original shape. At this time, at the door of an unremarkable wooden house on the vast grassland inside the waterfall, a large knife stood erect. Next to it is a pile of flames that are burning and dancing. On the other side of the flame 4 or 5 empty wine jars were randomly placed. Whitebeard lay on the ground, his scarred chest bared, snoring loudly. Buzz. Suddenly a slight vibration came from the waterfall. Well, Whitebeard's snoring stopped, his indifferent eyes slowly opened and a low sleepy moan came out of his nose. Chapter 5, Whitebeard vs. Saiyan Violent Ape. Pirate King. Rampaging Demon King. 5210. Chapter 5, Whitebeard vs. Saiyan Violent Ape. Whitebeard's long snorts were like thunder. But in the next second Whitebeard's indifferent eyes suddenly widened. The tower-like muscles all over his body trembled quietly, as if the animal had sensed the approach of a natural enemy. He stood up tall and strong. What's going on? How could there be such a violent breath on Sphinx Island? Whitebeard looked at the direction of the town from afar and murmured in his heart. But this place is so far away from the town and blocked by mountains that even Whitebeard can't use the perceived color hockey to detect it. Just when Whitebeard was about to pick up his weapon and go out to investigate, he suddenly saw Mal's sci-fi blue flame phoenix flying in the sky under the night sky. Whitebeard saw that Marco's flying speed was very anxious, and a bad premonition suddenly rose in his heart. Could it be that the coordinates of Sphinx Island were leaked? Other 4 emperors' attack coming. Father, something serious happened. Marco flapped his wings and hovered above Whitebeard, speaking anxiously. Such a tyrannical breath, is it Kaido? Whitebeard asked. No dad, it's Roja, Marco replied. Whitebeard. Hearing this, Whitebeard was stunned for a moment, not knowing what to say. You mean that brat Roja? Whitebeard asked. Well, he accidentally ate the mediocre fruit of Rampage and now he has turned into a huge rampant ape. I have already fought against him and roughly estimated that he has reached the level of the 4 emperors Kaido. Level. Marco quickly told Whitebeard about the incident. Hearing this, Whitebeard became even more confused. How could Roja, a teenage kid, have the power to become a 4 emperors level giant ape just by eating the mediocre fruit of Rampage? Just kidding. Whitebeard didn't think Marco would deceive himself, there must be some unknown reason. After pondering for a few seconds, Whitebeard calmly ordered, I'll deal with it and you lead the crew to properly resettle the residents on the island. After speaking, Whitebeard mentioned Kong Yunchi dressed in his iconic white royal robe and walked steadily towards the entrance of the waterfall. Every step seems to be slow, but in fact it is extremely fast. When Marco saw his father showing a rare serious attitude, he felt relieved. After all, the captain of his family is the strongest man in the world. Even 4 emperors Kaido would not dare to be too arrogant in front of his father. However, there was still a faint worry in Marco's heart. Roja, whether you live or die depends on your own destiny. Marco murmured. A moment later, Whitebeard passed through the tunnel behind the waterfall and came to the tunnel mouth covered by the waterfall. Just when he was going to go to town along a side path, there was the crackling of loose rock overhead mixed with the sound of waterfalls, but Whitebeard could detect it. Whitebeard raised his head and saw a burly figure mixed in the water falling rapidly. I saw Whitebeard reaching forward and reaching into the water in a flat manner. His big hand was like a dragon's claw and he grabbed the figure. Wow, grab it from the waterfall. Whitebeard frowned as he looked at the fainted Josie in his hand like carrying a puppy. Unexpectedly even Chaozi was defeated and he was defeated so thoroughly that he even lost consciousness. Looks like Roja has caused me quite a problem on the island. Whitebeard put Joe's down and murmured. Immediately afterwards he picked up Kong Yunchi with the other hand and jumped on the spot. His giant-like body broke through the waterfall, performed a moonwalk-like stepping technique and flew into the night sky. When he overlooked the town of Sphinx Island from a high altitude, suddenly a strong light shock wave directly hit his direction from below. At the same time Whitebeard's keen gaze instantly locked on the giant ape with furious hair walking in the town. The giant ape opened its mouth open at him, its fangs showing. This is the Roja who ate the fruit of the rampage. It really is, a Kaido-level monster. In the air Whitebeard already had a rough estimate of Roja's combat power in his mind. After speaking, Whitebeard, who was in the air, clenched his right fist and placed it next to his left ear. Buzz. The shock fruit ability activates. A milky white air barrier bloomed from the face of the huge fist. When the shock wave below is about to hit Whitebeard, Whitebeard lands a backhand with an air shock. Ka, 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 ka. The atmosphere instantly burst like a mirror surface and the cracks spread rapidly radially. In the next second I saw that the energy wave of the impacting Saiyan giant ape mouth cannon had a strange and intense distortion in an instant during the impact. Energy wave versus air shock shockwave. It only lasted for 2 or 3 seconds and the energy wave was directly blown up by the air shock shockwave into countless meteor-like light trails presenting a scatter shape and flew towards the sea area around the island in all directions. The movement in the sky was noticed by many captains below. All the captains raised their heads and shouted, "Father, Master, Father, you are finally here. Father, we can't stop him. If you don't come again your hometown will be destroyed." With the appearance of Whitebeard many captains suddenly felt relieved as if they had taken a reassurance. At the same time the shouts of the captains also reached Roja's ears. In the center of the town Roja, who was standing among the ruins and was extremely excited, became strangely quiet at this moment. With blood-red diamond eyes he stared up at Whitebeard in the distant sky. "Not good, Roja boy," suddenly Vista shouted. The captains who were scattered on the top floors of the various buildings in the town heard the sound and all looked back at Roja. Crack. "Roja, don't mess around. That's Daddy. You're going to die." Sage, the captain of the 4th Division, shouted in cold sweat. "It's over. Roja, this crazy boy actually has his eyes on Dad." The captain of the 13th Division, Buffalo Atmos, shouted in horror. After the confrontation with Roja just now they all have a general understanding of the strength of the great ape Roja. Comparable to 4 emperors. If there is a fight with Whitebeard this Sphinx, I'm afraid. At this moment the captain saw the corner of the great ape Roja's mouth suddenly showing a human-like upward arc. Immediately afterwards the giant ape Roja opened his mouth again in the direction of Whitebeard in the air, bearing his fangs, and faintly erupted pure silver energy from his throat. Chapter 6: The Saiyan Giant Ape whose tail was cut off by Whitebeard. Pirate King. Rampaging Demon King. 6/210. Chapter 6: The Saiyan Giant Ape whose tail was cut off by Whitebeard. When the captains around saw this scene their scalps were all numb. They thought that after Roja ate the devil fruit he would turn into a runaway giant ape who lost his mind, but now this giant ape is obviously preparing to charge for a blow. On the other hand Whitebeard in the sky is expressionless, full of imperial calmness. Whitebeard looked away from Roja and scanned the ruins of the surrounding town, frowning gradually. Here is his hometown, the Sphinx. For many years he has been guarding this place secretly and secretly transporting supplies and treasures on this island. He plans to live on this paradise-like island to spend his later years after he abdicates in the future. But now Roja has appeared as an unstable element and he has almost destroyed the town. Killing thoughts gradually rose in Whitebeard's heart. Although Whitebeard in the original book loves to accept sons regardless of race and class. However, Whitebeard wasn't foolish enough to adopt a mad 4 Emperors class violent ape as his son. If this is not well controlled, the original delicate balance in the sea may be disrupted. Therefore, for the peace of his hometown and the sea, Whitebeard can only choose to kill this violent ape. Step, step. The next moment I saw Whitebeard leaving Kong Yunchi behind him, stepping on the air with both feet and making a low-pitched sound of air crackling with every step. Whitebeard shot at the Roja giant ape in the ruins of the town in front of him with a lightning bolt. At the same time, violent ape Roja has also fully charged his mouth cannon. His strong black furred arms were raised above his head in the shape of wild horns. Roar, roar, roar. The animal's mouth, which is full of light source energy, is like the laser main gun of a space battleship shooting out thick silver white light waves to tear apart the Black Knight. The many captains who saw this scene, as well as the crew members scattered throughout the town and the residents who took refuge in the mountains, were all shocked by this scene and stopped. Meanwhile, somewhere high up on the edge of town, a large crew of the Whitebeard pirates is assisting with the transfer of residents. Blackbeard Teach, who was mixed in the crowd, saw the giant ape in the town firing a large number of rapid energy cannons at Whitebeard from the top of the mountain, which scared him so much that his nose bubbled continuously. They are well aware of the power of this energy cannon. Every shot has the power to explode mountains. Now with one breath the silver light shines all over the sky. This power far surpasses Marine's Buster Call by many times. Teach was shocked in his heart. Immediately, when no one noticed him, he took out a miniature video phone bug from his bosom and secretly filmed and recorded it. In the picture, Whitebeard can be seen evading the energy waves of silver-white light beams with a light body just like a swallow in the cloud. The ape like Roja doesn't have much combat experience, he only knows how to vent his surging energy crazily. So when he saw that his attack was completely dodged by Whitebeard, he was even more furious. The rate of fire of the mouth cannon bombardment climbed again. Blast the vast darkness under the night into daylight. When Whitebeard rushed to only 100 meters away from the great ape, he swung Kong Yunchi behind him. The shock fruit ability is activated quietly. A cloud of milky white air suddenly appeared on Kong Yunchi's broad blade. I saw Whitebeard slash out in the air with a knife. In an instant the atmosphere cracked like a silver giant net mirror. Those ejected shock waves were directly distorted and the strange solidification continued to change ferociously in the air. Almost at the same instant. Buzz buzz. The atmosphere trembled and the towns on the ground and the surrounding mountains were making terrifying loud noises and vibrations like an earthquake. Since Whitebeard's attack was an anti-aircraft bombardment, a strong and fierce air shock wave directly acted on Roja's broad belly. I saw the bulging belly covered with black hair like a slow motion showing a concave appearance. The light of energy gathered in Roja's mouth also quietly receded and saliva sprayed out. Next second, the huge violent ape's body crazily retreated along the ground at an extremely fast speed like a bulldozer plowing out a shocking scar on the ground. And run through the town. Crashed through several hills and a forest. A large amount of soot and debris was splashed along the way. If you watch this scene during the day, it will definitely be even more shocking. In the air, Whitebeard descended slowly, his white shirt grinning behind his back and his resolute and stern face looked ahead expressionlessly. The vitality is not weakened at all, just like Kaido, Whitebeard said in a deep voice. Immediately afterwards his eyes glanced at the seawater outside the island and a plan rose in his heart. He intends to introduce Roja into the sea and use the special relationship between the sea and demon fruit power to limit Roja's actions. However, just as Whitebeard secretly planned in his mind, roar, a loud bang sounded somewhere on the edge of the island below. And it was accompanied by a beam of Shigung cannon light that soared into the sky, shooting straight into the sky. Suddenly the clouds and the whole island of Sphinx seemed to be day. It's like a black and white world that has lost its color. Roja, you're causing me quite a problem. Whitebeard looked at the direction Sarutobi shot out and muttered with frown. Immediately Whitebeard stepped into the air with both feet and rushed in the direction of Roja at high speed. Obviously intending to strike again and completely knock Roja into the sea. At the same time, the soaring beam of light gradually disappeared. After Roja vented his anger, he planned to fight Whitebeard again. Immediately, boom, I saw him raise his arms high from a collapsed mountain depression and the mountain collapsed and his legs jumped and the mountain depression collapsed again. And its huge ape body is hundreds of meters high when it jumps. The legs are half shrunk, the arms are clenched into fists and the wrinkled and sunken nose is crinkled with excitement. A thick ape tail below dances in the wind like a giant python. The blood-red pupils scanned the surroundings looking for Whitebeard. And that's when Roja locks on Whitebeard. Roja suddenly found that Whitebeard was approaching and he was slashing towards him with Kong Yunchi with the shock ability attached to it. Roja, who has already suffered once, will naturally not give Whitebeard another chance to beat himself. Immediately he turned his body in the air and swept his long tail towards Whitebeard from left to right. Hoo-hoo, the sound of roaring through the air was like 1,000 tigers roaring together. Roughly estimated the fighting power of Isaiah Violent Ape, this one tail is enough to smash a 1,000-meter level mountain. However, upon seeing this, Whitebeard remained calm, changed Kong Yunchi's grip and moved forward calmly. A group of crew members watching the battle from all sides of the island saw this scene. I thought there would be a shocking confrontation. But the next scene, everyone saw that Kong Yunchi, who had blessed the shock fruit ability, chopped off the violent ape's tail effortlessly. Chapter 7, The Sun Whitebeard Dare Not Accept. Pirate King. Rampaging Demon King. 7/210. Chapter 7, The Sun Whitebeard Dare Not Accept. The moment Whitebeard cut off the violent ape's tail, Roja's brain suddenly felt like an electric shock and a silver-white flash passed through. Immediately afterwards confusion and fainting occurred. The huge violent ape's body froze in the air, immediately shrinking and falling at a speed visible to the naked eye. The lush black hair on his body is receding quickly, revealing a large piece of pink muscle. At this moment Whitebeard, who had just put away Kong Yunchi, was also stunned. Because under close observation he could clearly see that Roja was returning to normal. The coercion of the tyrannical breath also receded quickly like the tide. In the blink of an eye the huge violent ape in the air smashed into the mountain below and a section of the mountain collapsed instantly. When Whitebeard followed closely, but in the depression of the mountain range Roja was naked, lying on his stomach in a large gravel pit, sleeping soundly. As for the violent ape tail that was cut off by Kong Yunchi, it had already disappeared along with the disappearance of Roja's rampage state. Holding Kong Yunchi with one hand, Whitebeard stood on the edge of the crater wearing a bright moon. Looking down at Roja in the big pit below with no expression on his face, the killing intent in his eyes has also disappeared. A mediocre runaway fruit can actually make a kid burst into 4 Emperor's level strength. Little Roja, it's interesting. Whitebeard murmured. As he spoke, the corners of Whitebeard's mouth lifted slightly, revealing an intriguing smile. Meanwhile, on a high hill near the edge of town, Blackbeard Teach silently put away the video phone bug. His heart was full of shock and horror. Immediately afterwards behind him came the sounds of commotion from the crowd and shadowy figures. Daddy defeated Violent Ape. Leave some people here to guard the residence and others will follow me to my father's side. The captains must also rush to my father's side now. Teach, what are you dawdling about? Come with us to see what's going on with Dad. Okay, got it. Teach didn't refuse and joined the group and rushed towards Whitebeard's direction. When their crew arrived, what they saw was a large pit in a mountain that had been trampled on. Whitebeard and a group of captains stood on the edge of the pit with their backs turned to them watching the bottom of the pit. When all the crew members stepped forward and saw Roja naked in the pit, they were all in an uproar. Someone bring Roja up here. Marco next to Whitebeard ordered to the crew. But none of the crew members dared to say anything, they all looked away. You know, they are the crew members of the 4 Emperors Whitebeard pirates. Although they are not big pirates at the captain level, each of them is a bigwig with a reputation in New World. The average bounty offered is around 400 to 500 million and they have experienced countless dangers. But now no one dared to bring Roja, a 16-year-old kid, up there. I'm coming. Suddenly Teach from the crowd volunteered. Although his tone was a bit timid, but he came out at this time and attracted everyone's attention. Afterwards Teach slid into the big pit with anxiety, came to Roja's side and wrapped Roja with a black cloak. During the wrapping process Teach was cautious but excited, as if what he was facing was not Roja but an extremely rare artifact. However, under the watchful eyes of Whitebeard and many captains and crew members, he did not dare to make any small moves. Not long after, Teach resisted Roja and placed it in front of everyone. Father, what are you going to do with Roja now? Marco asked. Following Marco's question, all the captains and crew members focused their attention on the expressionless Whitebeard. In fact, many people already have an answer in their hearts, but they are just not sure. I saw Whitebeard pondering for a moment and ordered in a deep voice. Don't let the inhabitants of the island know that the great ape is Roja. Build a house for Roja in the offshore forest on the east side of the island. Team captains take turns guarding. The rest of the crew helps the residents repair the town. Quote, after the order was finished, Whitebeard carried Kong Yunchi alone and walked slowly towards the town. When Whitebeard left, all the captains and crew members were stunned and looked at each other in blank dismay. Vasto looked surprised. Dad didn't say he wanted to accept Roja as his son. Sachi. I'm also surprised. It seems that Roja has become so strong that my father dare not accept him as his son. Bramank, the captain of the 6th team. A little Roja requires more than a dozen of our captains to take turns guarding it. If the news spreads, the whole new world will probably be shaken. Murloc Namur, the captain of the 8th team. I guess Dad can't figure out why Roja has such a powerful strength. The conversations of the captains were clearly heard by many crew members. Although the crew members were shocked in their hearts, they also knew that this matter belonged to the Whitebeard pirates' secret and could not be revealed. Afterwards, the captains ordered Teach to carry Roja to the offshore forest on the east side of the island. The rest of the crew returned to town with the residents. Time flies. 4 days passed. For 4 days Roja lived in a wooden house in an offshore forest. More than a dozen captains gathered in front of a barbecue bonfire outside the wooden house, and the floor smelled of bones and sauces. Blackbeard Teach is drying linens and such on the side of the house. You say, how can this mediocre fruit of Rampage turn Roja into a big black ape? Still so strong. It was Joes who spoke. Now he has a white bandage on one arm and hangs around his neck. Dad has been flipping through the logbook for the past few days and it is estimated that there will be results soon. Marco said. After finishing speaking, he glanced at Jaz's broken arm, still feeling lingering fear in his heart. He didn't expect that when he went to find his father, Roja slapped the diamond-shaped Josie unconscious and even broke his bones. It takes a lot of power to do this. While the captains were chatting, Roja in the wooden house lay quietly on the bed covered with a white quilt. Suddenly the eyeballs rolled under the eyelids. It seemed like I was having a nightmare and it seemed like I was about to wake up soon. Chapter 8 After the Storm. The Strength is Soaring. Pirate King. Rampaging Demon King. 8210ths. Chapter 8 After the Storm. The Strength is Soaring. With the constant acceleration of the eyeballs, Roja's eyes froze in the end. A pair of black eyes full of vitality opened slowly, looking around. Surrounded by simple-style log cabins built of wood, there is no furniture, only the bed under him. Roja takes another look at himself. In front of him was a clean white quilt. When he opened the quilt, there was only a black short K inside. But to Roja's surprise, his figure seems to have changed a lot. All the muscle lines came out. Not an explosive muscular man, but a well-proportioned and perfect muscle similar to Rorno Azoro in the original One Piece. Moreover, Roja also felt that his limbs possessed infinite strength. You can open a mountain with one punch. Immediately afterwards, Roja felt a tingle in the brain. Hiss. Roja gasped. Hold the forehead with one hand. The sting was fleeting. Immediately a wave of memory information flooded Roja's brain like a slide projector playing, quickly merging with his own memory. After a few seconds, Roja stared at his right arm and right palm with a blank and surprised expression. I actually slapped Jazzy off the entire island. And even more than a dozen captains of the Whitebeard pirates. Even got a mid-air shock from Whitebeard. Roja looked at his palms and murmured in amazement. Yes, Roja now recalls all kinds of images of becoming a rampaging Saiyan giant ape. Even recalling it now, the physical body still has clear muscle memory. What devil fruit is what I ate? Roja murmured to himself. He had seen One Piece before traveling and knew that there were many mysterious devil fruits in One Piece. However, how could one be able to directly fight with 4 emperors after eating devil fruit? Isn't this a joke? Just when Roja was full of doubts and puzzled, he suddenly heard the sound of metal crashing outside the wooden house coming from far and near. When. Immediately afterwards there was a noise outside the wooden house. Roja reached out to open the wooden window next to the window just in time to see the scene outside the window. Outside the window was the front yard of the main entrance of the wooden house, and more than a dozen familiar captain figures stood in front of the wooden house with their backs to the wooden house. Roja's eyes followed everyone's gaze. In a dark place in the forest, Whitebeard was walking forward step by step holding Kong Yunchi as a crutch. It is still an old-fashioned and serious face and the iconic silver moon beard. The captains and teacher who was in charge of doing chores saw Whitebeard coming and stepped forward to greet him. Father Roja's body has recovered very well during this time and he should wake up soon. It was Marco, the ship's doctor and team captain, who spoke. Father, you have been looking through the logbook on the ship for the past 4 days. Is there any news about the previous owner of the Rampage Fruit? Foil Vista asked. Foil Vista, as Roja's half-kendo teacher, is also very worried about Roja's situation. Teach at the edge of the crowd was silent, although he knows all devil fruits and their efficacy. But he doesn't know much about the fruit of the runaway, let alone the news of the previous user. Roja saw Whitebeard standing still, his calm eyes glanced at himself at the window of the wooden house. Roja didn't hesitate, and after looking at each other briefly he turned out of the window directly. He appeared in front of everyone alive and well. Immediately more than a dozen captains quickly turned around, formed a semicircle, gathered around Whitebeard and stared at Roja fearfully. Even Chowzi, who had a broken arm, directly turned on the diamondization of his whole body. Blackbeard Teach even dodged directly behind an ancient tree behind Whitebeard. No need for that, I'm normal now, Roja said. Seeing the core members of the dignified Whitebeard pirates being so frightened by him, Roja also had sweat on his forehead. You guys together are enough to kill 7 in and 7 out at naval headquarters, right? Roja, punch me, attack me. Suddenly Whitebeard spoke to Roja. Everyone in Roja were stunned when they heard the words. Whitebeard, however, had raised his right arm and made a fist aiming at Roja. Due to his strong stature, this fist alone is the size of Roja's chest. All right, Roja reluctantly agreed. He knew in his heart how terrifying it would be after he became a violent ape. Now even if it returns to normal, these old brothers are still a group of people who are afraid. Moreover, Roja has seen One Piece and knows the behavior style of the Whitebeard pirates. They see that they are so powerful and there will be no bloody situation to suppress themselves. On the contrary, it is very likely that Whitebeard will be adopted as his son. At this time many captains also retreated silently. They are all veterans who have followed Whitebeard for many years, so they naturally understand what Whitebeard is doing now. Of course it is to adopt a new son. Immediately Roja moved his greatly improved body. Shirtless, run directly to accelerate. In an instant the figure disappeared. All the captains around silently turned on the perception color hockey to investigate. The next moment, Roja volleys in front of Whitebeard's fist. A punch landed on Whitebeard's face. Boom. There was a muffled sound of flesh hitting flesh. Between the big fist and the small fist, terrifying waves of strong wind exploded. The strong wind gushes out. The trunks of the surrounding trees were bent by the gust of wind and a large number of branches were broken, showing terrifying power. The next moment Roja retracted, his fist flipped upside down in the air and finally landed firmly. Roja, who was calm on the surface, looked at Whitebeard lightly, but his arm was already a little numb from the shock. Hemp eggs. Lousy's punch just now could at least blow up a tavern. This old Whitebeard doesn't move at all. The power of this punch has reached the level of the brats, who have offered a reward of 200 million. Whitebeard slowly withdrew his arms and said in a deep voice. A group of captains quickly gathered around him, all with puzzled expressions. Father Roja, is this devil fruit? Marco asked. Whitebeard nodded and then, staring at Roja, said, let me tell you now some information about the fruit of the Rampage and the previous user of the fruit of the Rampage, and you will understand. Roja thought to himself, well, Juncho doesn't know how he turned into a Saiyan violent ape. I don't know why when I woke up my strength reached the level of 200 million pirates. Speak quickly. Chapter 9, How to Use the Fruit of Rampage. Pirate King. Rampaging Demon King. 9/210. Chapter 9, How to Use the Fruit of Rampage. In the past 4 days I have been looking through the logbook and got some news about the fruit of the Rampage. Whitebeard said seriously. More than a dozen captains as well as Blackbeard Teach and Roja himself all listened intently. The general meaning is this. Once in the capital city of a member country of the world government in West Blue, there is a king's military commander named Algardro who was the owner of the previous Rampage fruit. He can use the ability of the berserk fruit to enter a berserker-like berserk state. With further development it can even simulate the runaway state of various animals. The characteristics of animals are born on the body. For example, with both arms transformed into wings, possessing the speeding ability of a raging eagle. The whole body has become huge with fish gills and has the ability of sea kings to resist water pressure in the deep sea. With the horns of the first bull it possesses the brute strength of the bison. Wait, Dad, you have a loophole. Vista interrupted Whitebeard's narration, stared at Roja with a frown and said with a constipated expression on his face. That Algadro, I have also heard his legend, but the rampage he entered was all creatures he had seen, so here comes the question. Roja rampaged into a giant ape. Could it be that in the world do you really have such a mysterious and powerful creature? Vista expressed the doubts in his heart. Immediately all the captains fell into the same doubt. Although Whitebeard was equally puzzled, he looked at Roja in the middle of the crowd calmly. In contrast to Roja, on the surface he was calm, but his heart was already secretly happy. Through Whitebeard's statement just now he basically knows the usage of the so-called rampant fruit's ability. It should be able to build on itself. Simulate specific pictures of runaway characters or animals that you have seen in your mind. Then let yourself directly enter that real runaway state possessing all the abilities of the runaway creature in your brain. At the same time Roja finally knew why Rampage Fruit was called mediocre. The previous owner of this world at most just looked at the crazy animals and simulated their runaway state. To die is the level of a pirate with a bounty of 200 to 300 million. But Roja is different. As a traverser, although he is young, he is only 16 years old. But before crossing over he was a fan of movies and anime through and through. There are countless Gawu film and television dramas, movies and animations that I have watched in my memory. He has a deep impression of the runaway hero and heroine in it or the villain. For example, the demon god Meliodas in The Seven Deadly Sins. If this guy goes berserk, the whole new world is estimated to be in chaos. Such as Uzumaki Naruto in Hokage Ninja. Pain attacked Konoha. Hinata helped Naruto but was beaten by Pain. Naruto lost his mind instantly when Hinata was beaten into Nine Tails. Naruto, who became Nine Tails, started to go berserk in an instant, abusing Pain in various ways, directly forcing Pain to use planetary devastation. For example, Shigeo Kageyama in Psychic 100%. The younger brother of the dragon suit used the name of the dragon suit to abuse his superpowers and was targeted by others. After his younger brother was abused, the dragon suit, who had been avoiding the use of superpowers, suddenly broke out and directly reached 100%. Powerful enough to easily influence a modern power. Another example is Kurosaki Ichigo in Shinigami. The sister control family saw the chains that the black knife put on the body of the younger sister Yuzu and the companion who was killed, and finally couldn't maintain reason and began to run away, turning into a bull-headed state. Bullhead Sero 2 shot broke the chain of the black knife. 90 pierced through layers of hell affected the dimension. It can be called a violent blow that broke the dimension. There are countless scenes and clips of similar runaways in Roja's mind. Roja estimated that he became a Saiyan giant ape because he had watched Dragon Ball. After all, the picture of Saiyans running wild and turning into giant apes is simply too classic. As for why he became a great ape, Roja doesn't know. After all, I just ate the fruit, so I don't understand many things. Roja, do you remember what happened a few days ago? Whitebeard asked, interrupting Roja's thoughts. I don't remember very clearly. The picture is very sporadic and it is gradually fading. Roja said seriously. Where does he not remember? The memory is simply not too clear. The reason for saying this is mainly to avoid responsibility. After all, after he ran away he almost demolished Whitebeard's hometown. If he is held accountable, then he is not finished. And what else do you feel? Whitebeard continued. Feel. Roja tightened the muscles of his whole body with a satisfied smile on his face and said. The figure has improved and the overall physical fitness has also improved. Whitebeard nodded meaningfully and said. That's right, every time the berserk fruit simulates the berserk state of other species, it will gain part of the leftover ability. Recorded in the logbook. The sergeant commander of the Royal Army possessed the abilities of tens of thousands of powerful creatures. He was already a sergeant major in that country at a young age. As Whitebeard said this, everyone in Roja instantly understood. The reason why Roja directly possesses the physical strength of 200 million pirates is because of the side effects of using the fruit. But this side effect is too awesome, right? Others have worked so hard to cultivate, you just have to watch it and then imitate it, and finally you can get some of the abilities that others have cultivated so hard it is really disgusting. Father, this fruit shouldn't be so simple. Roja asked. Whitebeard went on to explain. Well, Algardro, the previous owner of the runaway fruit, died under this fruit. As we all know, the use of devil fruit consumes the user's spirit physical strength. At that time the capital where he was located was surrounded by a large number of rebels. Algardro entered that large sea king's rampage state. The body directly turned into a huge deep sea monster several kilometers in size. Crush the rebels with your body. But he didn't even last for 10 minutes and he died from exhaustion, withdrew from the transformation and became a shriveled corpse. After listening, Roja's scalp couldn't help shrinking and numb. This hell, that is to say, if the target who enters the runaway state is too strong and his foundation is not solid enough, he will be killed by backlash. When Roja thought that he had become a Saiyan giant ape and was still alive, he felt terrified. Chapter 10. Is there still a state of rampage? Pirate King. Rampaging Demon King. 10/210. Chapter 10. Is there still a state of rampage? Although Roja is young, he doesn't have any luck. It is already extremely lucky to not die once and strengthen the body. Although I already have the physical fitness of a pirate with a reward of 200 million. But those anime and film characters who run amok in memory are not low in strength. What if he goes berserk and turns into Demon Boo? Or the Dark Ultraman Tiga, wouldn't he still be exhausted? Ahem, Dad, did you mention in your logbook how to develop this rampage fruit? Roja scratched the back of his head and asked. Whitebeard seemed to be prepared and ordered to Marco sideways. There should be a lot of information about the rampage fruit in the reading room and reference room on the Moby DK. Go and sort out a copy for Roja. It's Dad. Marco nodded in agreement. After giving the order, Whitebeard turned around and left. No one could guess what was going on in his mind. You didn't accept me as your son? Roja looked at Whitebeard's leaving back, surprised in his heart. But it was just a surprise. After all, Roja has no interest in being someone else's son. Roja, just rest here, I should be able to sort out the information this afternoon. Marco stepped forward and said. A pair of eyelids were half drooping and he always looked listless. Yeah, Roja greeted with a smile. Then Marco left. Gradually many captains let go of their fear of Roja. Pull Roja to ask for news about the great ape. Naturally it was impossible for Roja to tell them that he saw it from TV anime. After finding a few reasons at random they prevaricated. Time flies and it is afternoon. Marco wearing scholarly glasses came to the cabin and handed a parchment to Roja. Fortunately Roja traveled long enough and learned the characters of this world. It's okay to read. In this book information about the fruit of the rampage as well as the development direction I envisioned and the training policy are recorded. During this time you should study hard here, Marco said. After finishing speaking he smiled and patted Lin on the shoulder looking like a big brother next door. No problem. Roja wasn't polite either. After getting the book I couldn't wait to read it. Marco turned and left the cabin calling away Teach and the captains in the yard. Let's go to the town to help with repairs, Marco said. A group of captains and crew Teach walked in the offshore forest. Marco, don't we have to look at Roja? Vista asked. Marco touched the glass's frame with his index finger and said lightly. No, Dad will live near here during this time. As soon as this remark came out the captains beside Marco and Teach were all stunned when they heard it. Old Papa guards in person, Teach exclaimed in amazement. Ang. Marco responded lightly as he walked, the corners of his mouth curled up unconsciously under his lazy expression. The group of captains behind them walked up and talked non-stop. Father refused to accept Roja on board and asked Marco to sort out the information and now he guards it himself. What does Dad mean? Buffalo Atmos asked in confusion. Ahahaha, what's incomprehensible about this? Dad likes Roja very much and he is probably investigating secretly now. Sack said with a smile. If you like it you can just bring Roja on the boat. With Roja's current strength it is estimated that he can set off a huge wave in New World. Ha ha ha, the captain of the 14th Division Stubby Keel laughed. Road. Hey Teach, why are you so surprised? Let's go. Yizang, the captain of the 16th Division, shouted. At this time Blackbeard Teach has been stunned in place. When he heard Yizang's call he quickly calmed down and followed the team with a smile. At the same time Roja in the wooden house was flipping through books. And not far from the window of the wooden house there is a bare earth-colored hill. On the cliff of the mountain Kong Yunchi stands on the ground like a guard. Whitebeard sat cross-legged on the edge of the cliff. There is a large wine bowl in front of him and 2 jars of spirits in black jars beside him. Whitebeard was expressionless, looking in the direction of the cabin with all his eyes. For so many years high-spirited newcomers and brats have often appeared on the sea, but this is the first time I have seen a strong and uncontrollable kid like you. I'm not interested in your secrets. But if you can master the power within you, might be able to inherit my 4 emperors' position. Even the entire Whitebeard pirates. Quote, Whitebeard thought to himself. He raised his wine bowl and drank it all in one gulp. For some reason Whitebeard suddenly remembered that he met Shanks not long ago and saw that he had broken an arm. Only found out after asking. Shanks actually bet Roger's straw hat and an arm on some brat. Perhaps influenced by Shanks, Whitebeard also saw potential in Roja that was enough for him to give it a go. Time flies and a week has passed. The town has been well restored with the help of the Whitebeard pirates. On Lin's side he also integrated the information and intelligence compiled by Marco as well as the fruit development ideas he wrote down. Thoroughly understand how to use the berserk fruit. The ability to run wild is to make my emotions change drastically. Entering the imprinted creature runaway state. It may even possess some of the characteristics of impression creatures. The duration is related to one's own physical strength. The stronger the runaway state the greater the energy consumption. Quote, Lin closed the parchment, closed his eyes and muttered to himself. And when the runaway state is unable to defeat the opponent and the physical strength is exhausted but the killing intent is strong, it will trigger the big runaway state. While Roja was digesting this knowledge in his mind, suddenly Whitebeard's voice sounded outside the cabin. Roja. Chapter 11. All parties are shaking. Pirate King. Rampaging Demon King. 11/210. Chapter 11. All parties are shaking. Roja heard Whitebeard's voice, opened his eyes immediately and walked out the door. Pushing open the door I found Whitebeard and more than 10 captains were standing in the yard outside the door. There are smiles on their faces. Roja, who has lived on Sphinx Island for nearly 2 years, knows what they look like. Father, are you leaving here again? Asked Roja. Yes, we've stayed long enough this time. Marco smiled lightly. Immediately afterwards Foil Vista smiled at Roja and asked, how about Roja, do you want to go out to sea with us? Don't you always want to explore the sea? Hee. All the captains also looked at Roja with smiles as if they were waiting for his choice. Roja cast a sideways glance at Whitebeard. Whitebeard was calm and composed, his expression didn't change and he couldn't guess what he was thinking. No, I plan to practice on the island for a while. Roja replied with a grin. It exceeded everyone's expectations. To be honest, Roja really wanted to leave here. However, the ability to run away fruit is still in an unstable state and rashly joining the Whitebeard pirates will only attract the attention of various forces for no reason. The first squadron leader was a little disappointed when he heard Roja's answer. But at this moment Whitebeard seemed satisfied with Roja's choice, nodded and said, since you have such an awareness, then you can practice here for a year or 2 and every month after that I will send at least 1 captain to come back to train your taijutsu and haki. Marco and the other captains heard the words, although they all understood Whitebeard's attitude towards Roja in their hearts. But I didn't expect my father to value Roja so much. This is the rhythm of cultivating Roja as the second in command. All right, Roja didn't refuse. After all, this is the strongest man in the world. If he takes the initiative to cultivate himself with his core resources, SB will refuse. You must know the gap between cultivation by someone and cultivation by no one as well as the speed of strength improvement in the world of pirates. That's a world of difference. And Roja didn't intend to really practice obediently here for a year or two. There is no plan to join the Whitebeard pirates. Then the two chatted for a while. Whitebeard took the crew and captain out to sea. Only Foil Vista remained as Roja's first month's kendo training instructor. In the next few months, every month there will be a new captain to train Roja alternately. Roja didn't slack off either because he knew that in order to bear the fruit of the rampage he must have a strong body. Time flies. 5 months have passed. Today in the underground world of New World someone suddenly released a piece of secret information about the recent encounter of the Whitebeard pirates on an island in New World on the information selling network. Price: 380 million Baileys. The so-called underground world is full of illegal transactions and underground arms transportation. Weapons, poison gas, slave trade, devil fruit, intelligence between forces, etc. Both black and white are dependent on this market, so there is a huge living space. However, today is the secret intel about the 4 Emperors Whitebeard pirates. As soon as it was released it was bought by many tycoon-level forces all over the world. New World Baldigo, the island of white clay. The island is covered with white rocky mountains. It is the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army in the world of One Piece. At this time in a relatively simple underground cave, orange candles illuminate the place. Inside the cave there are a large number of artifacts similar to radio stations as well as various drawings and coordinate maps. A group of men and women wearing goggles and dark green trench coats are gathering around a wooden table for a meeting. Among them, sitting in the leadership position, is a man wearing a dark green coat with a red square tattoo on his left face. His short black hair was combed back and his expression was fierce. Serious man without eyebrows. Beside him is a blond boy with a scar on his right eye with a metal water pipe on his back. At this time in front of the group of them was a video phone bug. The phone bug's eyes glowed and a projection was played on the wall in front of it. Take a closer look. The projected picture is actually a picture of a Saiyan giant ape fighting Whitebeard. Although there was no sound, everyone in the conference room was watching intently. It was eerily quiet. Finally the scene ends with Whitebeard cutting off the tail of the great ape and the great ape shrinks and smashes into the mountains. Boss, what kind of monster is this? It can actually fight Whitebeard. If it is domesticated and becomes a member of our revolutionary army it will undoubtedly have a 4 Emperors level combat power. Sabo said excitedly. Although the picture is very short I have to admit that this ape is very strong. The 4 Emperors don't know about it. Admiral level combat power is definitely there. If we can capture it it will really help us. Dorag of Monkey, the leader of the revolutionary army, said in a deep voice. Then he showed a thoughtful look. The conversation between the two caused other members of the conference table to stare sideways and even looked at them with strange eyes. It seems to be talking. Don't you two really want to bring this monster that can fight the 4 Emperors Whitebeard's hard steel back to the headquarters of the revolutionary army? Meanwhile on the other side, Sengoku of Naval Headquarters sat in the office early in the morning to handle daily business. Suddenly he gets a call from Marine Intelligence. Ask him to approve a fund of 380 million yuan. When Sengoku heard that he was asking for money he immediately became impatient. After inquiring about it later I found out that the intelligence department was going to use the money to buy an intelligence message in the underground world. After further inquiry Sengoku knew that it was related to Whitebeard. Moreover, the mysterious person who sold the news had a high reputation in the underground world, so he was moved. Let the intelligence services buy that message. Then he watched the entire video alone in the office. After reading it Sengoku was in a bad mood. Immediately recruit Garp, Crane and 3 admirals to discuss countermeasures. And when Garp and others watched this video they were also shocked. They all said, how could there be such perverted apes in the world? Able to hard block Whitebeard's air shock without hurting. It can even use its mouth to fire energy cannons powerful enough to destroy towns at high speed. Marshal, I suggest sending a secret department to search for this ape all over the world. Sakazuki in a red suit suggested. After watching the video Sokovsky was a little excited. What he thought was if he could find such apes or even find a population of them. Tame them to use as a marine force. Then the pirates in the whole world will usher in a catastrophe. Chapter 12 Roja is gone. Pirate King. Rampaging Demon King. 12/210. Chapter 12 Roja is gone. Although Sakazuki's idea was extreme it also aroused everyone's thinking. After a while the silver-haired old Crane Vice Admiral shook his head. Sakazuki's idea is not right, the old man suggested. First figure out the relationship between Whitebeard and the great ape. We can think of taming. Maybe the Whitebeard pirates are already doing this sort of thing. Quote. Just after Crane Vice Admiral finished speaking the marine hero Vice Admiral Garp beside him wearing a dog-headed hat was eating biscuits with a big smile and said. That giant ape is really strong, I really want to fight him, ha 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 ha. Immediately afterwards Aokiji and Kizaru, among the 3 admirals, these 2 lazy people who have been unable to cheer up all the year round, raised their hands and voted. I support Crane Vice Admiral's proposal. I also support Crane Vice Admiral. Sakazuki glanced at the 2 people around him with an indifferent expression, folded his hands on his chest and then said nothing. Then, according to Crane Vice Admiral's intention, first order the intelligence department to investigate more information. Sengoku said, at the same time in the palace of New World Dressrosa. Don Quixote Doflamingo is sitting in a luxuriously decorated bedroom. The lights in the bedroom were dim. Brother Ming watched the screen played by the video phone bug while tasting the fine wine. He wears his signature pink feather collar and white shirt over his upper body. The lower body is also coquettish red tights and small leather shoes. The facial features are sharp and angular, wearing the iconic sunglasses. While watching the screen played by the video phone bug, the corners of his mouth were raised more and more, revealing excited arcs and white teeth. The whole person exuded an arrogance and madness. Ha 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 ha. Interesting, there is such a powerful creature in New